there's a couple second delay on it, but you should get a notification. Yeah. All right, I think we're going. I feel like I should have some intro music. Yeah, there it is. I think I'm going to install some intro music that plays as I'm getting the live going. And I think the first intro song might be the It's Corn song. I don't know if everybody's heard that. If you haven't, do yourself a favor before we really get into the meat and potatoes to this. Open up a new window, everybody that's watching. Google It's Corn video. It's going to change your life. And you'll never stop singing it, to the point where your wife is going to get mad at you when you're at the state fair. And every time you walk by somebody that's eating roasted corn, you're going to start singing the song to them, and your wife's going to think you're crazy. And then you'll end up in marriage therapy with somebody like Brian. So welcome back, guys, to another Parents Helping Parents live stream on Monday night. Really excited to be here. Thank you for joining us. There's lots of different places you can be, and you're choosing to be right here with us, and I really appreciate that. So if you are not familiar with Parents Helping Parents, maybe this is your first time watching, maybe you're catching this video on somebody else's newsfeed or on YouTube. Parents Helping Parents is a Oklahoma-based 501c3 nonprofit organization founded by parents, primarily run by parents, with the mission and goal of providing education, resources, and shared experiences to parents who have a child any age that might be struggling with a substance use disorder or addiction. So we serve parents who have children that are just in the beginning stages of maybe experimentation or early addiction, could be 15, 16. We serve parents who have children who have been struggling with addiction and substance use well into adulthood, even into their 40s. Some of our parents are parents of children who have found recovery and are doing really well and are healthy. Some of our parents are parents of children who have been, in and out of recovery and active addiction a couple of times over numerous years. And we work with some parents who unfortunately have children who have yet to find recovery. And the nature of the disease is that not everybody's going to make it, right? Hate to start a video off with really sobering news, but that's just the sobering reality of the disease of addiction that we deal with, is that not everybody is going to make it. And we work and support some parents who have lost children to the disease of addiction, and we're really happy that they can share their stories with us and be vulnerable with us, because that is a big piece to helping us carry the mission to families and individuals that may be hurting. So a couple of ways that you can stay connected with Parents Helping Parents and find out more about who we are and what we do. One of those is you can follow our Facebook page at Parents Helping Parents Inc. That's where you can get information about upcoming meetings and partnerships that we've got going on. You can keep track of all the wonderful things that we're doing. We also share some content, news articles and stuff like that, so it's relevant topics to addiction. You can connect with us at our other Facebook page, and I'm trying to think now, I should have pulled the link up. If you go to our primary page, it's going to be on there. We just recently started a new page that's more of a support interactive private group just for parents. While we're kind of doing our thing, I'll make sure that I tag that so that we can get the actual name of that new Facebook page we've got running. Also follow us on the website at www.parentshelpingparents.info. One of the main things you're going to want to be aware of is our upcoming fundraiser in the spring. It's going to be fantastic at Will Rogers Theater. We're going to have some food and some great speakers and some excitement going on there. I want everybody that's watching to do me a favor real quick. I'm going to do it while we're talking. Reach over and click the share button to share this video to your Facebook feed. There's a really powerful reason that we do that. It exponentially increases the amount of people that we can reach. If you've got 200 Facebook friends, most of us have way more than that, but this video automatically gets put in front of their faces so that they can see that. And we know, based on what the research tells us, that there are lots and lots of people, even in your friends list, believe it or not, who are either struggling with a substance use disorder or mental health disorder, or have a family member or close friend that's struggling with a substance abuse disorder or mental health disorder. Seeing this video quite literally can be the catalyst to that person finding help, that person finding change, could actually end up saving a life. So be a hero, click the share button. As you're watching the stream tonight, as you're watching and interacting with our speakers, there's a couple of different ways you can do that. You can always comment in the comment section on the live stream of Facebook. I will be monitoring that. If you've got questions, if you've got comments, feel free to toss those in there. Remember that that's the internet. If you comment on Facebook, it's going to be on Facebook forever. We're not able to remove that without removing the entire video. And so just be mindful of maybe the questions that you ask there and what you say there. Some people in the past have gotten a little crazy, and that's okay, but it's just going to be up there. So if you're concerned about your anonymity, if you're concerned about your privacy, or maybe you're just more comfortable asking a question privately instead of publicly, we also have a text line available that you can send those questions to. The phone number for that line is in the title of the video. That text goes directly to a Google text number that is on my screen. After we answer those questions at the end of the evening, all those messages get deleted. Your number doesn't get saved. Your number's not even attached to your name. So you can ask questions anonymously and privately that way. I think that might be all I've got in terms of introduction. So I'm gonna bring everybody into the screen here by unpinning me. Let's see, let's go to gallery view. That should probably do it. And we can all unmute ourselves. We've got a really exciting time tonight. We've brought in 3 local professionals who have all been A, doing this a while, B, have some great expertise, and C, are just lovely people in general. And so they are people that I've known in the field and in the community for a long time. And I'm excited that they're here to kind of answer some questions with us and to kind of toss around and bat around some things. And I know that we're just going to probably laugh a couple of times and have a good time. So let's just kind of go around the horn. Let's introduce maybe who we are, what we do, why we do it. And ladies first, obviously. Chelsea, go ahead.
Okay, hi there. My name is Chelsea Williams. I am in recovery myself. So I never thought that I would be helping humans. I always thought I would be helping animals. So God really had something in store for me when he mapped out my journey. So I work for a company called Alia Health Group. And so we have facilities all across the country. So when I got sober, I was homeless. I didn't have my kids. I had nothing to my name. And so by taking the suggestions of people in recovery, I was very willing at that point. And so I was willing to do whatever they suggested. So when they suggested treatment, I was like, all right, let's do this. And then when I got to treatment, they suggested sober living. And so I went to sober living and then so forth. So my life just kind of came together. And as addicts and alcoholics, we want things immediate. We want that instant gratification. And so it takes a lot of time to, get used to things and get things back one by one instead of all at once. But that is my passion, is to help people get back on this journey and to know that life can be beautiful. It can be a great thing. When all I wanted to do is just not exist anymore. The world was coming down on me and I didn't know how to help myself, and really not a lot of people around me knew how to help me either. So I made it my mission, not only to help people in recovery, but to help women and to help mothers, because women typically tend to come with a lot more baggage. And so they have a lot of questions on, what do I do with my kids? What do I do with my dog or my cat? And so, how did you overcome being away from your kids? And so, that's why I like to walk other women through this kind of thing. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Chelsea, thank you so much just for being willing to do this and being flexible. I know your plans have kind of changed tonight, but you still made it happen to be able to join us. So thank you so much. Gentlemen, I don't know, is this an age before beauty thing? Who wants to step up and go next?
I'll go next, and definitely not the beauty side of that. So so my name is Brian Howard, and I've been a therapist for, I don't know, I was trying to think of that just a second ago. Has it been 10 years now? Maybe not quite, but for a little while. And my company name is One Life Treatment, and I'm in recovery also. And that's obviously not a requirement for this field, but sometimes it takes somebody that's been there, done that, and has a T-shirt. And understands what it means to struggle and understands despair at a different level. And so I got into this field just because I just felt like it was a calling for me. I was able to help some people through my time in AA, and it just seemed to click for me. So my education experience was all in business, so I had to go get the education and credentialing and all that. But it's just been a fun ride, and I'm married, got 2 kids and some dogs, and so I have a pretty normal life now. I'm really thankful for that. And so it's neat to be able to take somebody like myself and take my story and say, I've been a drug addict and alcoholic, had the years doing that, and now I've got this pretty normal life, and try to help people that are in a similar scenario. I think there's kind of I don't know, maybe a gap in the treatment world to some degree. There's some people that either can't or won't go to inpatient, but just a traditional one-on-one in an outpatient setting maybe just isn't quite enough. And so they need a little bit more structure and that sort of thing. And I just try to fill that gap the best I can. So, and I've done that just in several ways, but really been a passion of mine, and I really have enjoyed that. So yeah, I think that kind of summarizes me.
There we go. I don't unmute myself fast enough. Excellent, Brian. Hey, brother, thanks for being here and joining us, man. I definitely appreciate it, and glad you're with us, Mr. Drew.
Hey, everybody. My name is Drew Laboon. I am the Director of Admissions and Outreach, Country Road Recovery Center. We're a 90-day program out on a ranch out in Tecumseh. I'm also in recovery, like the other two. And if you had told me 3 years ago that I would be, 1, working in this field, and 2, sober, to be honest with you, I probably would have laughed at you. I have a career military, retired military, at a defense contracting, things like that after. And I got a call at about a year sober asking if I'd like to come out and work at my facility. I'm also a product, of my facility. I went through my program in summer and fall of 2019. And, through coming out and working, starting as admissions coordinator, and the time I've spent at the program, I realized I found a new calling. And that's helping folks, particularly helping veterans, and working with those that suffer from substance use disorder. And it really is, I really enjoy working with the families as well. This really is a family problem. It's a community problem, but it really impacts every member of the family group. And so the opportunity to come and share things like this, to work with families every day, really is, it's a dream, and it's a blessing, and I'm really grateful to be here. Thanks for asking us to come there.
Man, it's my pleasure, Drew. Thanks for making time to be here, man. I hear that you guys have just the most top-notch clinical staff on the planet, so keep up the good work.
It's phenomenal. It really is number one. Yeah.
I think it was number 1 weeks ago, but maybe now it's 1.9. I don't know, hopefully. I don't think I've talked about it publicly. So I actually just started my 2nd week out at Country Road on their clinical team. So that's, me and Drew are laughing about that. Everybody else is like, why are they making jokes about how good their clinical team is? So so it's good to see. I know I just saw you earlier today, Drew. Guys, ladies, is that offensive, Chelsea, when I use just the term guys? Okay, you never know. It's 2022. Some people are real particular about their language. So people, I have just a couple of questions that I think are important for us to answer, and that I think families want to know about. Let's start with the first one. It seems like the longer I do this, the more horror stories I hear about people maybe that want help, can't find help. I know, especially on the mental health side of things, the number of beds that are available to do that work are, not common. It's incredibly hard to find placement for some people. I know that in the drug and alcohol world, it can be challenging as well. From your perspectives, really both perspectives, both being someone that has suffered from a substance use disorder and found recovery, and being a treatment professional in the field, what are some of the biggest barriers that people have to treatment, and what would your suggestions be on how families and how individuals could begin to beat some of those down and actually be able to find some help?
Well, availability is obviously a big one. Just having the options that are, first off, close. Geographic area is important, kind of a catchment area for these in Oklahoma, because I know that when people are seeking treatment, a lot of times they're the addicted one or the one needing treatment is sometimes wanting to stay closer to home, and sometimes it's family members wanting that too. And there's just hasn't traditionally been a lot of options. I've also heard, and I've had a little experience with this, is that when people they need to find treatment, they just go Google and start looking around. And that tends to be a bit of a barrier, because they may seek out and even give their info somewhere, and they may end up with info on a treatment center in Michigan or something. And I say that because that's an example. We did that just to see what would happen years ago, and we were connected, and we put in Oklahoma. We did all this stuff, and we got in contact with somebody in Michigan. We weren't seeking treatment. We were just seeing what would happen. And sure enough, it wasn't, you would have thought that we were looking in Oklahoma. So that tends to be a barrier. I would say something I run into is when people are seeking seeking information about treatment, and they don't find some answers, or maybe they don't really line up and with a treatment center, or they don't go, or the loved one doesn't go. They end up just kind of starting back over in the process. And so it's really, you almost have, it's like a war of attrition sometimes for families, I think. As a therapist, I really try to make sure that doesn't happen. If somebody's in need of inpatient, I kind of refer them out or get them in touch with somebody. I always tell them, hey, don't start over unless you just want to. I'm happy to help. Let's get a warm handoff with somewhere. And I like to hand them off to somebody too, so that they're always they don't start and I keep saying Google as if that's the only way to find it, but it's like they don't just go back there and kind of get a shotgun approach to everything. So I find that availability, and then just knowing where to turn seem to be a big barrier. At least that's what I see.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Thanks, Brian.
I'll go. I think, my experience has been the number one barrier for folks seeking treatment seems to be financial. For me, treatment is not cheap, whether it's inpatient or outpatient. Seeking services can be expensive. And, treatment options are much like anything you would buy out in the world. You get what you pay for. And so the better quality of treatment, the better quality clinical care, oftentimes is going to be a little bit more expensive. And so I know all of us here that are talking tonight, we have different resources available. There are a lot of treatment facilities that you can call that offer payment plans and reduce cash pay rates. We can point you towards state funded programs. And there are, believe it or not, if you go on the marketplace, everybody kind of gets scared that private insurance is so expensive. And it certainly can be, but for a person to qualify for some of the financial subsidies to the federal government with the Affordable Care Act, insurance can actually be very, very affordable. And the mental health, behavioral health benefit, which is, your substance abuse treatment falls under your mental health, behavioral health benefit, not your medical benefit. And so when you're looking for an insurance policy that can cover your treatment, you want to have a look at what that is on the marketplace. But there's some pretty incredible subsidies that can make private insurance very, very affordable, even for someone that makes very, very little money. So I think the best thing to do is, if someone really wants help or there's a loved one in need, to reach out to any of us, any of our programs, any of our facilities. and we can put you in touch with the right people. And if we're not the right fit, we will put you in touch with, the person that is the right. And I love how Brian said that, doing a warm handoff. I know, I don't know Brian real well, but I know Chelsea real well. And I know that she and I work together a lot to where, we don't tell somebody just, best of luck to you. Sorry, this isn't going to work. We will actually call around other programs and other facilities and do a warm handoff. We'll call our counterparts there. We'll make sure there's a bed available, and we'll walk you through that process to ensure that you or your loved one get the help that they need. I know that if someone had told me in 2019, sorry, you can't come here, you can't afford this, or best of luck to you, I would be dead. So I know it's very, very important to all of us that we remove as many barriers as possible. I know financial is huge for folks. And so even if you kind of think in the back of your mind, oh, there's no way I can afford to send my loved one to treatment, or there's no way, so-and-so, just get somebody that get us on the phone. Any one of us here, get us on the phone and we'll help you, remove all those barriers.
Yeah, I love that, Drew, because I mean, the number one message is reach out to a qualified professional and talk to them, because oftentimes we don't know what we don't know, and our perception of treatment being unaffordable is just because we haven't explored and sat down with somebody that might have access to resources that we don't even know exist. And so getting in touch with somebody that's local in your area, that's a trusted professional, is invaluable, especially versus just like Brian said, going on the internet and trying to find things out for yourself. I mean, some of us have been doing this for multiple years now, and we still are finding new resources all the time and finding new ways to help people afford treatment all the time, even after decades of a career, right? Chelsea, it's your turn.
Okay. Yay. So I know like all of those mentioned, plus a couple more. There's control. So I know I deal with a ton of addicts and alcoholics and loved ones, for that matter, who won't go to treatment because they say that they can't bring their boyfriend with them, or they can't take their girlfriend. I won't go unless I take my best friend with me. I won't go unless it's in California. I won't go, if I can't smoke there. I won't, just a bunch of these walls that come up. And, I tell people all the time, if you can go to treatment, go, because there's a lot of people out there that would give anything to spend, the night somewhere and have a roof over their head and a warm bed and be able to work on themselves. And so when, there's a lot of people that are trying to call the shots, family members saying, I just really want them close to home. When I have a bed open right now and they really want them close to home, it's very, very difficult. So I can tell right then and there that most likely they're going to have a tough time. And the second thing is enablers. So parents, loved ones that often let their kid or their loved one stay at the house, and they don't have to get a job. They don't have to do this or that. And my favorite line of all time is, nothing changes if nothing changes. So if they have a roof over their head and they've got food and you're handing them cash and this and that, for whatever reason, they got no reason to change. Why would they? They've got their coping mechanism with them, and they can disappear at any point in time. They're not held accountable. They don't have to watch their kids. They don't have to do anything. But they have, a place to come back to always, and nobody to really, answer to. So huge is why I get calls from wives and husbands is, what do we do? They're not going to go. And then you've got a couple of huge enablers in the family that allow them to keep their cell phone on and all that good stuff too. So not raising that bottom really, really hurts.
Yeah, Chelsea, when you say not raising that bottom, explain to us a little bit about what you mean by that, because I know that's a phrase that we might all be familiar with, but there might be people coming in that are clueless about, and feel like you're speaking Chinese to them.
Yeah. So a lot of parents will pay for a car. or they'll pay for gas, or they'll pay for that cell phone. So if you start taking away all those things that you're contributing to, I mean, how are they getting their drugs, or how are they calling? How are they getting from point A to point B? They're taking that car that you own, or they're taking this and that. So by taking away all the things that they rely on to get that drug or the alcohol, that really helps them start thinking about, gosh, I mean, even the roof over their head. You know, you cannot stay here if you cannot pass a drug test, or you cannot, if you're not going to meetings or doing this and that, you don't have a place to stay. And they might leave for a week or two or months, but eventually they will call and say, I need help. A lot of times. So sometimes they're just stubborn.
Excellent. So thank you guys. I think that's really valuable stuff. My next question, and this is a much more broad, I think, question. So maybe thinking through what your experience has been in helping families, or maybe thinking through what your family's experiences were as you guys began to find recovery. What do you think is the number one thing that maybe not number one, like right there, but top couple, right? Top couple of things that maybe families need to know about as they're starting this process, as they're trying to engage recovery and engage help?
You mean specifically like when someone is looking for treatment, or looking initially, or I guess what?
I mean, maybe thinking about just in any area, like, hey, if I, in hindsight, like, I really wish that somebody would have told my family this, and maybe say, like, maybe I wish somebody would have told my family this when I was still really wrapped up in my addiction and not motivated to change. Maybe you want to answer it in that part, or maybe you want to say, I wish somebody would have told my family while I was in treatment that this is what it was going to be like after I got out, right? Or just whatever you feel like might be super relevant, kind of, like I said, in a really broad sense.
Well, if I'm not blunt, I'm not anything, and I'll just be right out with it. It's going to get worse before it gets better. A lot of times there's this feeling and this idea that, once they get into treatment, everything's going to be okay, or once they get sober and clean, everything's going to be okay, and all the problems are going to be solved, and all this and that. And let me tell you, those of us that struggle with and have struggled in the past severely with substance use disorder, our drugs and our alcohol are our solution, right? I don't like how I feel, so I'm going to take this substance into my body to mask that and cover that. So what you've done is you take me and you sober me up a little bit, and all of a sudden I don't have that solution to mask those emotions, and all of a sudden I'm a lot more depressed, sad, anxious, angry. And my tongue will fire off things, and I'll pop off at the mouth and say, do things that normally I would never do, that aren't necessarily in line, because I'm just sobering up and doing all this and that. And so, I always try to tell families, like, listen, it's going to get worse before it gets better. Just because they're going to treatment doesn't mean all of the problems are solved. And so the best thing you can do for your loved one, if they need help with substance use disorder, is stay out of it. Right. I get real direct about that with families. It's the best thing loved ones can do for a person struggling with alcoholism and addiction, is stay out of it. You can't get them sober. You can't keep them sober. Right. Chelsea talked about bottoms, a minute ago. Bottoms are emotional more than they are physical and material. I've got to get to the very end. I've got to get beat down, and I've got to get to the point where I'm so exhausted that I will do anything that you tell me to do, and I'll get out of the way. And so when alcoholic and a drug addict is finding that bottom, it's a really rough, rocky road. And so knowing that our loved ones can't get us sober, can't keep us sober, the best thing that family member can do is stay out of it, right? You can't control it. And so staying out of that, staying out of the way, and seeking help for yourself as the loved one is going to be critical. You want to help them get some help for you and focus on you. Learn ways that you can set healthy boundaries. And I think probably more important than setting the healthy boundaries is holding the healthy boundary. Focus on you. Let them worry about them. Let them sort that out, and you worry about the way you can be a healthier, happier person yourself, regardless of them. And my experience has been that the entire relationship, the entire family dynamic, all of that balances out and smooths out to be way better than it ever would have been when loved ones or anybody else tries to get in and micromanage someone else's recovery.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Drew. Brian?
Yeah, I mean that I agree with everything Drew said. I think if what I like to kind of guide families on or parents on is that this is just the beginning of this thing. I think the view that this is kind of I mean it's completing something. It's a milestone, and for a lot of us that we don't complete things in addiction. So maybe, and it is a good thing. So I'm not saying that shouldn't be acknowledged and celebrated. But it's almost like kicking in football. You kick the game off, and you have to do it, and it's an important play right then. After that, you're not talking about that anymore. You're on to the next play. And so the thing is, so they've got to realize that going to treatment, completing treatment, doing that is amazing. It's great, and it's necessary for a lot of people. But when they get out of treatment, now their treatment center becomes their life. So kind of mimicking in a way, or creating some structure and some expectations for themselves outside of the treatment world, the inpatient treatment world, is going to be really important. But it's really important for them, the addict. It's not something the family needs to control. So one, they're going to have to create a system, a life outside of treatment. That's just kicking off the game. And two, the family cannot create that for them. I think that's really important, because I know you can kind of tell sometimes the healthiest people in that family system are the ones that are not there, and then on the other side of that, the ones that are kind of the enablers, and they mean well, and they love the people, they kind of want to swoop in and make sure that they stay sober, and it's a tough thing, because then they become the sobriety. So I think that's something that I think is important to know and acknowledge.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Brian.
So one of the main things I would say is, that just as much as the addict or alcoholic needs a community, the parents and the loved ones need a community. They have to. So here's a little fun story. So my mother-in-law used to let me and my husband stay in her house, and so we would shoot up there. We would go sell drugs and all these kind of things. And it was when she started going to these support groups, is when I guess she developed a backbone, and she learned that it's okay to say no, and it is okay for them to be mad at you. And we said a lot of hurtful things. We said a lot of hateful, mean, horrible things, and vowed that we would never speak to her again. And she was gaining freedom for herself. As hard as it was for her to say, no more, you have to get out, it was very freeing for her, and it eventually helped save our lives. I recently helped get my niece into treatment, and before she's at Country Roads, by the way. Anyway, so before she left for treatment, she said a lot of hurtful things, or she tried, and just saying, that's why nobody loves you, and this and that and the other. And it made me laugh, because I knew that wasn't her. That is the addiction part. That is her defense mechanism. That is what has, taken over her personality, to the only way she knew how to defend this and not feel anymore. So you're going to hear a lot of hurtful things. If a drug addict's happy with you and they're using, there's an issue. You need to, so by just powering through it and not taking what she was saying to heart, was very good because, you know, she reached out a couple weeks later and we were able to get her the help that she needed. And if I would have been holding those resentments and saying, yeah, I mean, you did this and you did that, you're never going to change, you know, just beating them down, when she needed, here's how we're going to help you. That really encouraged her. And I said, don't think, just go. And she did, because there's a lot of us that say, no, I got to get this taken care of. And, oh, my storage unit. Don't think, just go. And she did, and, you know, doing well. So that is a huge piece of advice. Don't take what they have to say to heart. And because you just know that that's not your loved one. They're just very sick. And so they just need to get better.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good word, Chelsea. So my last question, we're going to kind of take in stages. We're constantly talking at Parents Helping Parents and in family support groups about boundaries and helping people define healthy boundaries and helping people understand what those look like. So the best you can, in a couple of minutes, we could host week-long conferences, month-long conferences about healthy boundaries and what that looks like, right? So please, as you're watching this, understand that you guys are getting like the very, very tip of a long blade of what we could potentially talk about as we're introducing a lot of these topics and answering some of these questions. But, you know, the best you guys can, we're going to take the question, what do healthy boundaries look like? But I would like to know from your perspectives, what do those look like specifically before somebody might go to treatment while they're still in their active addiction? What do healthy boundaries look like while someone is in a treatment program? And then what healthy boundaries for a family might look like after somebody discharges from the treatment program and is coming back home, or potentially to sober living, or, you know, transitioning from treatment back into the real world. And I think we kind of pre-discussed who was going to take what sections. So we'll do, we'll just kind of do it in progressive order, before, during, and after.
Wait, I can't remember. Am I first or is Chelsea first? I'm first. Okay.
Yeah, you're first.
Okay, so before treatment, man, this is tough. Because like we were talking about, like Chelsea just touched on as well, there's no getting somebody into treatment is and getting someone the help they need, period, whether it's residential or outpatient or whatever, is not a comfortable process for anyone involved. And so the best thing is the best thing the loved one or anybody can do, I think, is to not deprive them from the pain and uncomfortability that is going to come along with this process. And that's really, really hard for family members and for loved ones. See it every day. But you know, just getting out of the way. Sometimes that the pain that they're feeling, whether it's homelessness, whether it's the loss of any financial aid or help at all, and all those things, you know, make life uncomfortable. But that can be the best thing for an alcoholic and a drug addict. It can finally push them into help. I know for me, when my family wouldn't answer the phone anymore, you know, I had family members that just would not take my calls. I had loved ones, brothers that I had been deployed with multiple times that would not take my calls. I wasn't allowed at their house anymore. And I felt completely and totally alone, and I was. And it was for a reason. I had earned that aloneness, right? I had pushed everyone away. And the only time I would reach out or ask for anything is when I needed something or I wanted something from them. And so when my loved ones and my friends and family and everybody kind of stood together and said, no, we're no longer going to watch you slowly kill yourself. We will help you only if it's toward getting some treatment, i.e., we will put you in the car and we will drive you there. We will put you in touch with the resources and aid you in getting some help somewhere, but that's it. There's no more paying rent. There's no more paying cell phone bills. There's no more, you let me come and crash on your couch. There's none of that. Because it wasn't until I realized that I really had alienated everyone that was important to me, and I had nobody left that was willing to participate in that with me, was when it was a wake-up call. It really was. And that's really, really tough. because, parents don't want to see their children suffer. Wives don't want to put their husbands out on the street and say, you can't be here with us. Adult children don't want to put their older parents in a facility and direct them towards getting help, right? Nobody wants to admit and accept that their loved one has a problem, right? And so one of the things that we all do here is smash the stigma, right? We let everybody know that it is okay to not be okay, that it is okay to need help, and it's okay to reach out. And so the best thing, again, the number one thing that a loved one or anyone can say to someone that needs help is, I'm not going to help you anymore to do anything except get some help for yourself, and then I'm out of it. Your sink or swim time. And I always tell folks too, because I have the objection, what if they, I don't want them to go hungry, I don't want them to do this. Well, guess what? When I was out there running a gun, and I always found a way to get Jameson, and I never went without cocaine. Right. So if a person really wants treatment, or they really want help, or whatever that is, that looks like, they're going to be able to do it. They're not helpless. In fact, those of us that suffer from addiction, alcoholism, we're some survivors, man. We're some resourceful, crafty folks when we need to be. And so, putting them in touch with the resources and then getting out of the way. You're not gonna hold their hand and walk them all the way through their recovery process. Put them in touch with the resources and then get out of the way. That's the best thing I can tell anybody.
Yeah, that's great. That's great, Drew. So moving from before treatment to during treatment, I think that's you, Chelsea.
Yeah, I'll be real quick since we're running short on time. So basically, bottom line, I always tell parents and loved ones, don't give them a plan B. So if they make it to treatment, that's why I always like to push, as far away from home as possible, because they can't get fed up and they say, you know what, I'm leaving. Well, I've had a lot of loved ones that will buy plane tickets home, and I always try to say, it's not going to be any better when they get home. We're going to go right back on that same hamster wheel. So don't give them a plan B. From the moment they leave for treatment, they cannot come home. That means after treatment, they're going. I'll let Ryan take it from here.
Okay, so healthy boundaries after treatment. So I think one of the first things to know, boundaries, that you're right, Derek. We could really, especially those of us in this field, we can really talk about that. I think it's really important to understand what boundaries need, what they are first. So I think the first thing I would kind of recommend is learn about boundaries, learn about what boundaries were crossed. Because think about that for a second, if we're telling family members, hey, you got to establish some boundaries, but without any real guidance and understanding, we're talking to the people that may not have boundaries, right? So they may not understand that. And so maybe an understanding that, the beginning of a boundary is kind of where you begin and they end and your loved one ends. So it's an understanding of that and what that looks like. And I think it's important also to know that I think Drew said this earlier, something like, when you establish boundaries like that, you're going to offend somebody, right? I usually tell people the ones you're setting the boundaries, I don't want to say against, because you're setting them for yourselves, but the ones that are most negatively affected by it, like in their mind, they get angry. Like the first one to get angry is usually the first one you need the boundary from. So one of the things you're going to see is you establish a boundary, and your loved one's going to come out of treatment, and they're not going to like it. And you're going to establish this boundary, and what Drew was saying is they establish a boundary, but really the work is in maintaining it. And so I think it's an important thing to understand, kind of reviewing what the boundary was that was crossed, or boundaries, learning about that, where you end and they begin, and then just understanding that they are not going to like it initially, because it's all part of the growth process. With this, but boundaries, I usually recommend a book that we all probably have heard of. It's Codependent No More by Melody Beatty. And the reason, it's not necessarily a boundaries specific book, but there's a lot of crossover with codependency, enabling, and boundaries. And I encourage people to read that, because so many people can read that and say, oh man, I think that was written It was like it was written just to me. But I think for the parents, it's really important to understand that your loved one's discomfort is not the result of you doing something wrong. And in fact, you could almost say, and I don't know if you guys would agree with this, but if they're not a little upset about something you're doing, you're probably not doing enough. Like we don't, even coming out of treatment, like we don't like all that structure and you having boundaries and that sort of thing. So don't feel bad about this, about honoring yourself and taking over that for yourself. But I think, and kind of, I know we're running short on time, but I noticed something that all of us seem to believe is that it's okay to let natural consequence do its thing. It's okay for the bottom. Like I love Chelsea said, raise the bottom like that. It's very important because you're not going out to say, I'm going to make this uncomfortable. You're just saying, I'm going to take away the things that are making it comfortable for you now. So it's not like an offensive move. It's just like, hey, I'm going to take these things from you because I'm not going to be a part of the problem anymore. So I find that really powerful, that people in the field, as loving as we are of addicts, because I mean, the worse off you are, the more we like you. But at the same time, we're also like, hey, but we know we need to suffer sometimes, and we need that discomfort, right? The human condition is that you'll make changes when it's too uncomfortable not to make the change. And so sometimes the families need to get out of the way for what needs to occur for real change to happen, for real change to occur.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Thanks, Brian. Hey, as we wrap up, I ask everybody that comes on to Parents Helping Parents Live the same kind of quick question to close. If you had between 30 and 60 seconds just to give a single thread message of hope to somebody who might come across this video that's really in a bad spot, that's really struggling, that's really hurting, what would your 30, 60-second message of hope be to somebody that might see this?
Mine would be to not give up. I've seen so many people get one door closed after another, and there's somewhere for someone. There's a facility, there's a sober living, there are options in Oklahoma to get into sober living on scholarship. So it's never fully shut. You just have to get uncomfortable, because when you're uncomfortable is when you grow the most, and you're going to learn so much about yourself. So when you close that door of, I'm not going to treatment, I'm not going to sober living, get uncomfortable and see how your life changes.
I think mine would be just to understand that that even when we're in the depths of our addiction, we're still in there, and we do know, we don't act like it, and we're going to treat people, but we don't treat people well, we don't treat ourselves well, but we're still in there, and so not to take things personally as if it's being done at you or to you. My wife had pointed that out to another wife one time. She said it was really important for her to come to the understanding that Brian, or that I or their loved one is not doing this personally. Like when I did things, it was not done at her. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not responsible, because I absolutely am. But it allowed her to step away from it as if it was something that I was doing to her at that time. And the other thing was that she realized that this was not something that, she knew my heart and knew that I wouldn't choose this. So I think it's important to understand most people are not waking up and saying, I want to just dismantle my life and everybody else's life. That's not it. Now we do that, and we're responsible for that damage, but that's not that's not in most people's heart. That's not what we're after. So if you know that and you took that forward, you know that, man, everybody's worth saving no matter what's going on. And so I guess the message of hope is just don't give up that hope, because I've seen people, and it takes multiple inpatient routes. And then I've seen people that just wake up and they are so sick of themselves, and they can come and they maybe sit with me, and then they're sober for a long time. So I think that's just what I always think of with families. Like, don't give up that hope. They're in there, and everybody can be helped.
I would say that your addiction, your alcoholism, your struggle with mental health, behavioral health, depression, anxiety, PTSD, all of those things is not a reflection of how strong you are as a person. It's not. It is okay to not be okay, and it's okay to need help. Mental health, behavioral health, alcoholism, addiction, it can impact you or your loved one regardless of the background you came from, your education, how much money you make, what neighborhood you grew up in. It doesn't matter. And people need to know and understand that it is okay to not be okay. It is okay to not be okay because there's help out there, and struggling with this is not a reflection of how good you are as a person. Parents, it's not a reflection of how good or bad of a parent you were. This thing is just what it is, and there is hope and there is healing for families and for those struggling with substance use disorder.
Hey, I just thought of one other little thing real quick when you were talking, just super fast. It's not like, I love that you brought that up, Drew, that you said it's not the result of your parenting or anything like that. That's something I hear from people a lot. Like I try to figure out what did I do? Where did we go wrong? I mean, there's no fancy way of saying that. You just have to stop that thinking. Honestly, even if it were something that you contributed to, this is where we're at now. But it's not the result of your parenting or something you've done. That's just not, coming from a drug addict, alcoholic, I'm telling you, that is not the way this works. So just kind of give yourself a break on the self-shame on you owning somebody else's addiction.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, thank you guys. Well, before I say thank you, for people who are more interested in the places where our panel works and how to get in touch with them, in the comment section of this Facebook video, I have tagged all the Facebook pages and website information for how to reach these fine folks. If you need, if you've got additional questions, I know any of them would be happy to talk with you and take that phone call and get you plugged in. So thank you guys, one, for being here, two, just for being who you are as people, and three, for all the wonderful work that you're each doing in the recovery community and with all the people in our state and in states across our region who might be struggling. You guys are fantastic. I have been blessed by knowing each of you, and I really look forward to every time I get to hang out with you guys. So thank you guys for being here. I really do appreciate it. Thanks everybody for watching. You could have done lots of things tonight, but you chose to join us, so we appreciate it. We are here the first and third Monday of every month, so come back and join us anytime. And everybody enjoy this wonderful fall weather that we're having, at least here in Oklahoma, for the next couple of days. All right, see you guys.
Thanks, Derek.